Hello everyone and welcome. A lot of you have been messaging and asking, and here it is, our video translating and fully explaining what everyone believes to be the Zonai text. I have to say, I wasn't fully ready to talk about all of this during the last episode of our podcast, the Hylian Gamescast, which is now back on iTunes and other podcast services. So please go check it out, give it a listen, leave a review. We would all really appreciate it. And at the beginning of each new episode of our podcast, we will read out every new review that you all have left. On upcoming episodes of the Hylian Gamescast, we will have a few guests: Commonwealth Realm, Per, who runs IGN, Andre from GameXplain, and one of our good friends who worked on Breath of the Wild and Age of Calamity, who has been on several times before. I wasn't ready during the podcast because the amazing Zoe, who was kind enough to email us and share what she had found, none of this would have happened without her. So please, give her a big thank you, if you haven't already. She was a fan of our channel because of how deep we go in our research, and as all of you know, whenever we cover something, we always show proof of it on screen, as we try to do our best to get our facts correct, just as she was doing with all of the time she put into this. By the time the Hylian Gamescast episode, she had most of it translated, but not all of it, and she hadn't sent me all of the images to best explain everything. So when the topic was brought up and she was in the live chat, I decided to just go with it, and it was probably a bit hard to follow along because I was trying to understand everything while at the same time trying to explain everything in the most comprehensible way that I could. I apologize for taking so long, but we wanted to make sure this was as accurate and easy to understand as possible, which is hard, as I don't speak Japanese, and this translates from a fictional language to Japanese and then to English, unlike a lot of previous Zelda text, which translates directly to English. With that out of the way, let's begin. Also, we have something really important towards the end of this video, so please stay tuned for that. I'll start by going through her method and what she told me, then get into the final translations. However, timestamps are on screen if you just want to skip it. I'm just doing this to explain this as best I can, and in the order that I was learning. First, she sent an email saying, "Hey Jesse, I believe I got a solution to the runes. I came across the below by reading the symbols top to bottom and right to left. I ran both through paristocratic analysis multiple times, as well as statistical analysis via 𝐴Z-Decrypt, a tool used to solve the Zodiac 340 cipher. By all means, I could have made mistakes, and I'd welcome any secondary proofing." You can see on screen here the cipher key, and I apologize for mispronouncing this or any other Japanese words, the hiragana. And I do believe this is her first translation, and it'll become more accurate towards the end. This portion translates to, "Daylight comes and goes, but the sun never shines. Like father, like son, like daughter." You'll notice a lot of these are written out in a form similar to a poem, the exact style being called Zen koan, which Google and Wikipedia describes as, a koan is a story, dialogue, question, or statement which is used in Zen practice to provoke the, quote, great doubt, and to practice or test a student's progress in Zen. The only changes I made was for double consonants in order to comply with hiragana in that sense. I changed the RS to RA, RU, RI, RO. I did that with other consonants as well when they weren't followed by a vowel. I'm currently applying the keys to the other symbols to see what jumps out. I've got nothing definitive, but I noticed that the shots of Link's glowing hand with the diminished Master Sword have symbols that translates to obtain. For sure it's preliminary, but still exciting. I wanted to send this to you first because you are always so careful and thorough with information. I asked her how long it took to solve it, and her process. She replied, "I've been working on it in my spare time since the moment the trailer dropped. Originally, I thought it would translate to straight English because there's just enough repetition of characters in the right places. I started to suspect something was off with the approach because a lot of code-breaking tools plus manual attempts resulted in a lot of outcomes with the words this, that, and the. I felt strongly that the text wasn't gibberish like what we saw in places in Twilight Princess, and I initially changed my approach to try other scenarios, such as left to right by row of characters. Finally, it hit me that the crest that Link stands on during the timing update trailer has the characters that are very spaced out as far as we can tell. While we've seen that with Sheikah or things like the Travel Gate, we've not seen two characters stacked on one another going in a circle. I've applied the logic that the circle crest from that trailer was likely a Triforce emblem, and that the spaced out characters likely meant wisdom, courage, and power over and over, or something very in the ballpark for that. I realized English couldn't accomplish that with the characters and spacing. This led me to believing the right answer would be in Japanese via hiragana, just as the Hylian alphabet for Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, and Minish Cap were. Given the new game's involvement with the ancient, I felt that further confirmed Japanese as a possibility. From that moment, I started trying to substitute single runes with hiragana, and immediately I noticed that certain patterns emerged, but I couldn't get anything useful. Ultimately, I turned off the dictionary mode for my tooling and focused on statistical character replacement for letter frequencies for common blurbs of Japanese text. That was when I started getting results that formed basic Japanese words. The mistake in the earlier approach was thinking that one rune would translate to one hiragana syllable. Once I started seeing words appear in the analysis, I realized that it was more likely that every 2 runes would likely act as a pair that translated back to one hiragana character. From there, I changed to analyzing via the right to left, top to bottom approach, given that Japanese scrolls are written that way. On the first run, the left panel solved with almost no modifications needed. It was so close that the raw text even translated to something like shining brightly, not shining brightly. This was a good indicator that I was close for a major reason. In scroll writing, it's common to have 3 columns, where the right column is the positive text and the left column is more negative. This fits with the rough translation and final translation. Finally, I set a few ground rules for what the right solution would look like based on observation. One was that the rune appearing as half circle with the diacritic above it would likely be a very common vowel, A or E, or a punctuation, though likely not punctuation because Nintendo doesn't often do that in similar settings within the games we have. The second was based on an idea I've heard crypto solvers express before, that the right solution would feel right. They say this because statistically it's possible to arrive at a probably correct solution that even sounds feasible but doesn't really fit no matter how badly you want it to. Ultimately, I was surprised and shocked with the left side panel because it came so easily once I adjusted my approach, and contextually I could see where it fit within the existing Zelda canon. The fact that the right side turned out to be a Zen proverb also fit for me given the nature of the themes of Breath of the Wild, and the fact that Nintendo seems to be doubling down on Shinto Buddhist themes in the new game. The next day she sent another update, saying, "A slight update. I have a more correct translation. I've been working top to bottom, right to left, and still somehow managed to not order the final results from right panel to left panel. Doing so brings clarity to the Zen proverb and changes the wording a bit. The father, like the son, like the daughter, is referring to the cosmos when ordered correctly. It becomes this when switched. When the sun shines, the moon shines. When the moon shines, the stars shine. When the sun sets, the moon turns red. Daylight comes and goes, but the sun never shines." This structure follows the common structure of Japanese poetry by starting with an observation and closing with a seasonal reference. The second set of hiragana by itself refers to a cold and sunny day. It only comes together when ordered properly. I was able to further confirm that the sentence ending in hiragana and the translations are very consistent with Japanese, quote, cutting words, and are used in poetry. The next email, she sends this image and states, "I started trying to substitute some of the key from the panels into other findings, and sure enough, they are yielding results. Sorry for the incoming spam over the next few days, I can't help myself." In the middle, we have a new character. Statistical analysis for Japanese came up with T or S, and since we had an S in the key, I tried T. Once again, we have a hanging R, and using the same rule from the panels, it becomes Ru. The dragons translate to a teru, meeting of lovers. I asked if she had looked at the yellow glowing symbol on Link's hand, and she says, "I think a lot of the characters on the temple door are not accurate or accurately captured. I'm pretty bad at upscaling, so I've been relying on a lot of your 4K videos along with other captures to verify them so far. I suspect that until we get a very solid capture of the door, it would be hard to be confident. I did make a preliminary attempt at translating it, and I did get an interesting result. It appears that it might say, building of counselors. I'm going to try and capture the door characters myself using upscaled sources. I'm glad you mentioned the symbol on Link's hand. I've been researching it before the trailer and the style of the symbol is consistent with the other runes. I can now say that the other characters around the crest where we see the symbol on Link's hand in the timing update trailer, these that are shown in the picture here, appear to be a repeat of what we see on the dragons. The characters are in the same place as far as we can see. My prediction is that the crest is going to turn out to be the Triforce surrounded by a stone set of dragons. I also asked how she got into this hobby. She says, I blame getting into code breaking purely on the 𝗵𝗲 monument and the 7 heroines. I was so disappointed by the mistranslation of the 7 heroines' powers that I started taking Japanese lessons. Eventually, I saw the high-res capture of the complete 𝗵𝗲 monument on Monster Maze's channel. And that was it. I started building a translation map and I tried to break it. I still haven't broken it, but it follows a very similar degree of repetition as what we see in the new runes. Unfortunately, the clearest shapes don't really match the new runes. Though, curiously, they do match a lot of old Hylian from the Ocarina of Time. It also doesn't help that Nintendo of America butchered the quest text either. This was all followed by a few images and screenshots of the examples and a spreadsheet of the translation grid she used. Sorry, sometimes I get so excited that I rush through things. I think that this emblem is going to be what we find on the ground surrounding Link in the second shot. After decoding the top shot, I went back and tried to decode a few characters we see in the second shot and discovered that they have mostly the same characters. The first 2 and last 2 from the top can be found on the ground, but we can't quite see the middle character because Link is in front. Sadly, on his hand, I can't find anything conclusive yet, and looking at a few sources, I suspect that the hand symbol might be composed of other symbols, such as showing this image, and stating cleaned up rune. She continues, oddly enough, I have a theory that the symbol on his hand may not be a final image unless we are missing a large amount of runes. I say that because the symbol is very close to the Ohm symbol, at least in terms of inspiration, which you can see here. I then asked her again about the meeting of lovers, as I was kind of confused on where she found them because at first I believed that it was on this door. But then she said that translated to building of counselors, so she clarified she meant this logo, and stated, I realized after the fact that not everyone is aware that these runes are even present. There is a better capture, but I don't have access to it at the moment. Each side is mirrored with the same runes, and those are the ones that say A to Ru, meeting of lovers. The A and Ru runes are ones that can be seen during the timing update trailer. Hi, Future Jesse here with a quick update. I know I sound a bit different, I'm not using my good microphone. I was finishing up editing this video when I was sent more details on the translations. I apologize for the long wait. I originally hoped I could put this video out on the day that I promised, but I didn't want to rush it. As you can tell, some of the earlier translations became more accurate as she had more time to do more research. She is still sending even more updates on all of this, but for now, this is what we have. She also made a nice graph that properly explains what each rune translates to, and how the Japanese translates to English. Once again, I do want to apologize for mispronouncing a lot of the words in this video. I'll have another video up as soon as I can get all of the new details organized properly. However, this is what she believes each translation to be, and we will have another discussion on all of this, including all of the updates, during Tuesday's Hylian Gamescast. We went on to discuss some other things. I'll give an update on our next Hylian Gamescast episode this Tuesday with our special guest and good friend, who you all may know as 𝗵𝗲 It'll be this Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern or 10 a.m. Pacific. So all of this was the process of everything. And to recap the translations for everyone, at least the ones that we have now. Although having some doubts and worried she may not be 100% accurate, as nothing is confirmed until Nintendo reveals the proper translation. Plus, even if we weren't using the Zonai text, and instead just translating directly from Japanese to English, it's important to realize you can get 10 different translators that each come up with their own unique translations that are all correct. And that's just going from Japanese to English, not this Zonai text to Japanese to English. As a sentence in Japanese may need to be rephrased in English, and each translator may use slightly different synonyms for certain words. An example being if a direct translation to English ends up being, quote, large ball of light in the sky, unquote. Instead of saying that, you would want to change it to, quote, the sun, unquote. This is partly why games and anime used to have lazy or really bad translations compared to what we see now. For those interested, our next few videos will be on who this mystery character really is, which comes from an awesome viewer of the podcast, Michelle. A video on the Twilight and Zonai connection, a video on the true purpose of the Zonai or Torii gates, and we have a few others planned for this following week that I'll let you all know about in the next video. If you have an idea or theory you would like us to explore, please comment below and let us know. And just like Zoe in this video, we will credit and thank you in the video. Thank you all so much for watching the video, and please, if you made it this far, consider subscribing and commenting below. It really does help us out. Hello everyone, I just want to say thank you for watching the video all the way through. Some of you have been asking, and yes, we still have shirts and other merch available at teespring.com. You can find a link in the description below. If you purchase one and send us a picture wearing it, we will give you a shout out and include your picture during one of our upcoming videos. Thank you to our amazing Patreon supporters, starting off with our royal family, Shadow to Us. On our champion tier, Justin Clark, Monica Spath, SOBERX. In the Sheikah tier, Andremoy, Joseph, Natsu, Wrecker1, Rusty Caulfield, Tremel. And in the Kokiri tier, Gene Pinna, Chad Costin, David Guthman, Candy, Disappointment, Gus Calvo, Zane, Lean, Lovable Christie, Mr. Monocled Metroid, and whoever this is only donated to hear Jesse speak my name. Thank you all so much. If any of you would like your name to be featured at the end of any of our videos, or to get a shout out at the beginning of our Zelda podcast, the Hylian Gamescast, and to have any of your topics or questions answered or turned into a full video to be featured here on our channel, along with many other things, please join our Patreon and help support the channel. Thank you all so much. Happy Halloween.